Welcome to the Ion Active Health Show with your host Khalil Smith, and we got Rico Aviles. We're going to be talking about the Rico Podcast. How you doing today, Rico?
My man, what's up?
Not much. Another day.
Another day, another dollar.
I want to talk about Rico Podcast. What is it? I see a lot of people getting into the podcast game. I know why I joined, why I started, but I don't know why you started. And that's what I'm intrigued about.
Yeah, no, that sounds good. First of all, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. And you're still going, so man, I mean this when I say this to another. Keep trucking, dude. There's better days than tomorrow, man, and it's awesome that at least you love what you're doing. You know what I'm saying? The Rico podcast started. I apologize for that. The Rico podcast started exactly a year ago, as of January 14th. And the reason we started was because there was a couple of reasons that led up to it. I had started doing years ago, like a bunch of interviews, because I was doing like human trafficking cases as an interpreter, which is like my main job. I'm an interpreter by trade. Like, people think I'm a comedian, people think I'm a podcaster. No, I am an interpreter before anything. Netflix could walk up to me and offer me a comedy special, but if a company offers me work with trafficking victims, 99.9% of the time I'm going to go with the company.
Before you continue, what is an interpreter for my audience?
An interpreter, that's a good question. An interpreter is an individual that translates one source language to another source language, meaning from a language that I understand and you understand, and then the LEP, the limited English proficiency person, which is LEPP, which I never know why they say it like that, can understand. And basically, you have interpreters and you have translators. The translator interprets translates the written word. An interpreter is the vocal, like what is said. That's an important distinction.
I definitely would have confused it.
99.9% of the people do. And then you have some people that say, well, an interpreter or translator is the same thing. And to that, I always say, well, then why not call us linguists? Because a linguist is a person that studies language, which if you've been in the game as long as I have, then that's pretty much what you do, you know? And I had originally started going on a bunch of interviews because I had people that had found my page or had heard about me, and they just wanted to interview me about my work. And I went on a ton of interviews, on a lot of them. And it was really interesting communicating with other people and being able to promote, what I do, and promote, some things that you can be on the lookout for and whatnot. But it wasn't really like, there were so many missed opportunities or missed questions that I think that would have made the interview more interesting, that I was thinking about like starting my own podcast or my own show and whatnot. And at the time I had also started doing comedy. So it was like a good way to like mix both of them. I kept going back and forth with the idea. And I was just like, I just didn't want to pull the trigger because I was like, oh man, I got to have, audio. I got to have cameras. I got to have a studio. I got to have this. I got to have that. And long story short, we did a comedy show where I opened up for Kevin Farley. And we got to hang out with Kevin Farley outside of the venue. And we were smoking cigars for hours. And Kevin Farley, like, immediately was like, when he heard one of the comics, was like, hey, like, Richard's done like human trafficking case. Like, he saved people. And I'm like, yeah, man, as an interpreter, let's get that shit straight, And Kevin Farley just sat down and talked with me. And he goes, man, you should do a podcast. Like, I think you should. So I did. A couple months later, I started Rico Podcast with my co-host, Eric McElroy, and myself. And we honestly just started by, what I wanted to do was learn from other people's experiences and talk to other people that have lived interesting lives or have something that I think my audience would want to listen to. And, we've had people from, Giovanni King, who's a comedian that was on Heart of the City, ran by Kevin Hart, from samurai historians, renowned samurai historians that have been on Netflix and have been all over Japan, such as Michael Wirt, to, famous celebrities like Tommy Chong.
I need your plug. I'm trying to figure out how you finding all these guests.
I just ask. Like literally, I have a way that I email people, and for some reason, a lot of people say I'm very likable, and a lot of them
based on your email.
Not really based on my email, based upon like the few interactions, because a lot of times for you to get those people, like you have to get on a call with a manager, you have to get on a call with a publicist, and that's just a barrier for you to be able to get to this person, because they get so many emails and calls that the publicist has to, like, a good publicist will like filter through and say, okay, this is real, this is bullshit, So I always tell people, if you can complain about the publicist game and the managing game, but at the end of the day, like, I have a publicist, and I got a publicist because we got to a point that we were getting emails from people, and I just, I had to like take time to go through it. And I just didn't want to do that because it's a lot of work and it's very boring. And it's just pretty much like really asking. Like, we just got off the earlier today, which it'll air tomorrow, with Nico White. He is on Netflix. Pete Davidson presents Friends or something like that on Netflix. And Nico's a guy that's been in the scene for like the past 10 plus years. He's done some stuff in movies. He's done some stuff in SNL, I believe. I might be wrong on that one, but I'm pretty sure he has. And he's
before you go any further,
yeah,
for the podcasters listening, and they're trying to do the same thing as you're doing, when you talk to their publicist, manager, what tips would you give them as they try to attempt to do that? Like, as in,
just be honest.
Like 4 steps.
Just be honest. One of the things that I tell people is I always have a hook, because there's certain things, like, my podcast is unscripted. Like, I want to make that very clear. Some people think it's scripted because of the conversations, how I navigate a conversation and take it where I want to, or how I ask a question depending on the answer. Like, I'm taking notes as I'm talking sometimes, and I can take notes without looking, because as an interpreter, you have to be able to develop that skill to be able to take notes. So I take notes up and down. So I can look at my notes, look down, or like pretend like I'm coughing, and I'll look at my notes and I'll look up. And I also do a lot of research on their publicist too. Like, I always talk to the publicist, because I always want to get the publicist first. That's one thing I started doing, was I would ask publicists if they wanted to be on the show, because a publicist knows a lot of shit about people. Every publicist I've ever had. Yeah. No publicist has ever said yes. Trust me, they know way more things that they're going to take to their grave or until their client dies,
They probably signed a bunch of NDAs.
Probably. I don't know. I know I've had to sign NDAs for stuff, for certain things, but not anything podcast related. But honestly, man, like, the best thing is like really, really harp on what you want. And the other thing is like, a lot of people, when they interview celebrities, they really ask them the same shit that everybody else asks. And it's like that isn't fun for me. Like, I don't want to ask you, and don't get me wrong, I've asked questions that I'm 100% sure someone's asked, but it's not an hour and a half or 2 hours or 3 hours of me asking the same questions that you could go to YouTube and hear the answer. You know what I'm saying? I also recommend everybody, like, hey, kindly and probably like, hey, we see that they're working on this. We'd love to hear about that project and promote it. But you really got to harp on, like, normally if I have someone that's working on a book or something, I open up to talk about the book. Like, let's talk about the book. Because I want him to understand, like, I want to get them comfortable talking about something that they want to promote. And again, this is just like guidelines of things that I've done. This is not, legal advice or anything of that sort. It's just what's worked.
Actually, it makes a lot of sense to me, because, like, you want to give value to whoever you're interviewing, such as their books or whatever they're promoting that they have, and they want the world to know. So
Yeah,
that's how
and
I
like
kind of look at it.
yeah, and like that's the thing is like a lot of people when you talk to them, they aren't as excited to talk to you as you think. But the thing is they understand that it's a game, you know? Some of them, at least everyone that we've had, knock on wood so far, they've loved us and they've come back. Like we're having Tommy back here in a few months. Art Kajir, who's a really cool sci-fi writer. We've had him twice. Larry Hankin from Friends and all that other stuff that he's done. Larry, we've had him twice. And Larry will like, like I'll message Larry and he's like, yeah, you want me to be on tomorrow? Like whatever. Cause it's like you develop
That connection, that
yeah,
rapport.
you really do. And like right now what we're doing is we concentrate a lot in the upcoming years on the older celebrities, like people from the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s, because those are the people that we're going to be losing like very, very soon. And I want to be able to get those little nuggets of wisdom that those people have, that it would take another 20 to 30 years for me to talk to someone at that level that could have that wisdom. So that's one of the things that I like. And like also like all my friends are older. Like all my friends are 39 and above, So it's like I don't know a lot of these celebrities, and it's kind of cool to talk to them because they're pretty cool with me. Like Hank Garrett is really cool from Car 54. Where are you? Ruta Lee, famous huge actress, Canadian actress from back in the 50s, 60s, 70s. Seven Brides for Seven Brothers, a lot of like stuff. We just talked to her and she was like super cool with us. Larry's an older guy. Like people remember Larry from Friends as Mr. Heckles, but what people don't know about Larry Hankin is that he's an artist. He's like a painter, like a really, really, really good painter. And he has some paintings that are just beautiful that no one ever asks him about him. No one also knows that, that's another thing that you learn is like a lot of these guys started out as comedians and they ended up going to other things. Some of them starting as models. Some of them started as veterans and ended up going to like, different places. I always tell people like the way that I pick my guests is just whoever I want. Like I don't really have a theme. Like I have my friend Danny from Texas, from the Analyze This podcast. He has a theme. Like he goes with comedians and MMA fighters, or comedians and martial artists,
That's
That's
a
a
good
theme.
mix.
But that's a good mix. But for me, it's like, I do Jiu Jitsu. I've been doing Jiu Jitsu for a while. I've also been doing comedy for a little while. And I have a lot of friends who are very successful comedians that I could talk to them for hours. But at the same time, there's certain conversations that they're not going to want to engage me on, and there's certain topics that they're not going to want to talk about. And, you can be funny all the time, but at the same time, there comes to a point that there's certain things that you want to talk about on a serious level, Plus, there's also like certain issues that I like to address and tackle that aren't being addressed and tackled that, to me, it's more about learning how to manage the issue than fix it, because unfortunately I'm not at a level where I can impact change how I wish I could impact change. But that's just, it comes with time. We've only been doing this for a year. So in due time, I guess.
Okay. My next question was, you talked about gearing a conversation, like leading it. How do you go about doing that during your interviews?
That's a good question. So I'll give you an example. What is your full name?
Khalil Smith.
Okay. So I'm gonna write something down, right? And I'm gonna show you how I gear a conversation, but I'm gonna write something down first for you, okay?
Okay.
Because it's a good exercise that I do. I used to do this to pick up chicks at the bar. I'd be like, I know where this is gonna go. And what would you say your name was? Your full name?
Yeah, Khalil Smith.
Khalil. That sounds exotic. Sounds like
Thank you.
very exotic. Like, is that something like, is your parents from somewhere else around the world, or your parents like tic-tac-toe that shit? Like, do they just throw a name out there?
Just threw it out there.
Just threw it out there.
Yeah.
No Middle Eastern, nothing in there.
No, New York.
New York. Ah, that's where it comes from. Okay. So what I did is I wrote exotic, right?
Yes.
So then I wrote your name. So what I do is I pretty much see like what answer you're gonna give me, and I try to navigate like where it goes. Oh, it's not exotic. Oh, okay. Well, if it's not exotic, where are you from in the world? And in my mind, I'm like, probably East Coast. East Coast, sure as hell. New York. Ah, New York. What was it like growing up in New York? Man, growing up in New York, we used to do this. Well, you know what, dude? I'm from Puerto Rico. Growing up in Puerto Rico, we used to do this shit, so I can relate. See, you already know. You're smiling. You're like, oh, shit. Like I know where to navigate that. Where it gets complex is when we're talking, like, there's three things that we try not to address on the show. It's religion, politics, and sports. Like, we can talk about issues that unfortunately some of them have a political connotation, but we can also talk about the issue itself and not talk about left, right, up, down, east, west, south, whatever the hell, because those aren't conversations that you can win. And I just don't really care about people's political views. Like, I want to hear about your life. Like, unless you were a mass murderer or like some other type of crimes that I'm like, I don't want to deal with you, I'm probably going to listen to you. Like, I really don't have or wish someone like ill just because they think differently than me. And that's one of the things that I think has helped us be successful, is that I don't ever, like, if someone's doing better than me, I don't want them to think that I'm being a hater. I always want to wish someone like the best, because if the shoes were inverted, or if he was in my shoes, like, I would hope the same,
Exactly.
So I think that's one of the things that, like, I would like to think that's one of the things that helps us. But, sometimes people get on a rant and they want to talk about politics, and I just let them talk and I navigate the conversation away from it. But again, that's just a skill that it comes with time. It comes with time, and it probably comes from my background in, being an interpreter and like translating and stuff like that. And also probably comes from the little bit of law enforcement that I did and whatnot.
What are some
that answers.
what are some pros you had from being an interpreter, and cons? Because I don't know too much about doing that as an occupation.
That's a good question. I'd like to think that the best part of it is that I get to help people. To me, that's the best part of it. Because at the level that I'm doing it, it's literally like, it's life or death situations. Like, someone's life is on the line. So I'd like to think that that's probably, for me, that is the best, is I get to help people. The con is that people don't really respect interpreters. They don't. Like, when I tell people I'm a certified Spanish interpreter and a translator, they go, well, yeah, it's so easy because it's your first language. Who really needs Spanish? And, I'm a smart ass. So I'm like, well, you can tell that to the trafficking victims that I interpreted for a few days ago. And I just go about my way, like a boss. But interpreters really aren't respected. The schools are a great example. There's a lot of schools that they designate someone to be an LEP teacher, but they don't speak the language. So it's just a way for people to just circumvent, saying, oh, we're helping and we're doing something, but you're really not doing anything. And the other regard is that everybody has this thing where AI is going to take over. AI is going to take over. Well, man, I tell you what, I don't know. I don't know much about AI. I don't know much about computers. But if a computer can do what I can do, then cool. Like, I'm going to still do it, because it's a skill that I like to have. Because think about it. How many people you can talk in just one language, and how many people I can talk to, and I know 3. You know what I'm saying? Your view of the world also changes, and people just don't really respect that. They just kind of like, it's kind of like when you tell people you're in the military, it's like, oh, whatever, it's kind of like that. So, I'm kind of used to it.
Yeah, I get the same feeling sometimes. Is that why you became a cop as well? Just to help people in that feeling?
Oh no, man! I joined the MP Corps because I wasn't smart enough to join the infantry. It's the honest to God truth. Like I joined the MP Corps. No, I'm just kidding. Like that's one of the things that I say nowadays because I should have gone infantry. I joined the MP Corps because my father is a retired cop from Puerto Rico, and my grandfather was an MP in the National Guard in Puerto Rico, and my uncle retired as a colonel from the MP Corps. And it was just one of those things that I could do it. So I was like, yeah, sure, let's do it. But it was a lot of work. It was a lot of work. Like my 5-year enlistment, like I was talking with my friend Sean, and he did 17 years. And he's like, dude, in 17 years, I didn't even get to do like a quarter of the stuff you did in 5. And honestly,
Was he doing the same job?
he was an MP too. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I went from Puerto Rico. I enlisted from Puerto Rico and joined in 2008 to Fort Leonard Wood. Got stationed in Fort Leonard Wood, lasted there 30 days, and then went to Iraq. Came back from Iraq in 2009 after a 15-month deployment, stayed in Fort Leonard Wood, went to Korea, and then I got out. And in that whole time, I had a lot of domestic cases, had a lot of drug cases, like a lot of drug cases, a lot of fucking drug cases. A lot of just shit that like it really surprised me to see it in the military. So it was just very shocking to see that, like, some of the people that you would think have the best discipline, do some of the stupidest shit, as you might know. Because you know what they say, man, like a good soldier can't have an idle mind. I used to tell this to my guys, like an idle mind is a dangerous place. Because that's how strippers end up getting brought up to the barracks. You make up an improvised slip and slide. One of them pops their wrist because you didn't put something at the end of the slip and slide. Not that I'm saying that that's what happened, but I'm just saying these are the things that soldiers will do when they're bored. So a good soldier, you got to keep them busy, but you also got to know when to give them their time.
Yeah,
and that was like
sounded like memories.
Thing. Well, they say that when you look to the left, you're recalling a memory. So. Yeah,
you did a lot more than me, and I've been in 10 years, and I've never been out the country. So
really, damn, bro, that's the first thing I wanted to do. Like, I reported to 252 MP detachment, and I was like, great, let's go be a cop, let's go. And I get there, and they're like, all right, cool. The detachment was where all the specialties were. So if you were there, you had to have a specialty. You were going to go to a school. And I remember sitting there, and they were like, all right, cool. Like, you have good PT. You're a short guy. You got big, broad shoulders. You're going to go to SRT. I was like, what the fuck is SRT? They're like, special reaction scenes. It's SWAT. Perfect. And then the 463rd came in, and they were like, well, we need 4 people because we just lost 4 people who were pregnant. And I was like, oh, okay. So I was like, yeah, I'll go to Iraq. Like, yeah, I'll go to Iraq. Yeah. Fuck it. Like, no training. Experience. I just came out of basic. I have all the training I need. Yeah, that was a rude fucking awakening running missions. It was fucking terrifying for the first like couple of months. But yeah, that's pretty much why I joined the MP Corps, was because I should have just gone infantry. Hindsight 2020.
Well, at least you learn some skills. It's all about the takeaways. That's what I look at in the military. Like, some people may complain about they don't like their job, but then you learn new things, new skills, go to courses, schools, and you pick up on these things that you can use later on and help people, even if the experience wasn't your favorite.
Well, but that's the thing, is like people when they're in, they complain.
Yeah, I see it every day.
And they don't realize. And then there's a lot of bullshit that is said to y'all that you don't realize. Like, when I was in, I was told, oh, you won't even get VA benefits or anything because nobody gives a fuck about first term enlisters and all this shit. And I was like, come to find out, over 50% of the people that join do not do more than one enlistment. Literally, a ton of people who are highly successful do not do more than one enlistment. You know why? Because we're fucking smart enough to realize, like, no, fuck this. Like, fuck this. And you got to understand, too, when I was in, it was literally like the Iraq war was like not at its peak, but it was like dwindling down when it was like, okay, something needs to happen, and then the SOFA kicking, the Statute of Forces Agreement kicked in May. So like we were running missions and teaching the Iraqis how to be Iraqis, and we were running raids and we were running night raids with them. We were doing search warrants with them. We were getting warrants. We were interrogating people. We were going through the Mahalas and stuff like that on Amaria, Screaming Lady, and Cadra LPS. But the thing is like you really like learn a lot from a deployment. Like there's a guy that has a book called Rich Dad Poor Dad, and I can't remember his name, that he says
Robert Kiwi's something.
And one thing that he said that like really changed my mindset about things was, he said, if you've deployed or if you served in the military and you deployed and you went to war, you literally have no reason to not try to be successful, because you know what the worst case scenario is and what shit really looks like at the other side of the world. It's like, so why would you not fight? And I was like, oh fuck, like I didn't realize that. Like you have all the opportunities. Remember your deployment days when you see a kid that is thankful when you give him a Gatorade bottle. Remember the days when you see a mom that is like, you give them food and they're like, oh my God, this is amazing. And it's like they don't have clean water. They don't have pens where they can like just sit down and draw like a kid. They see a pen and they're like, holy shit. So it's one of those things, man, that like you really learn to appreciate life. And the problem is if you deploy young like I did, it really changes your perspective. And like you're really ahead mentally further ahead than most people. And you really figure out like what you should bitch about and what you should fight for and what you shouldn't fight, because like for me, it's like I know exactly what I'm going to fight for and what I'm not. I know where I'll die standing and I know where I'll take a knee, I'll take an L, but that's the thing is like that for me, it came the hard way, through all these experiences and whatnot over the years. So yeah, that's how that came to be.
Yeah, I never thought about that from that book. Like I read it a long time ago, but I don't remember that part. But when you go on deployments, like you said, let me use myself for example. I go on submarine deployment, so I'm out the water for maybe 6 months, 8 months out of the year, and then you have all this stuff you take for granted. But when you have to use recycled air, you don't have as much food and all choices. You start to think about it. Like the things you took for granted, if you've been in this predicament, like what else you can do? How can you manage life when you have an abundance of all these things?
And that's the problem. That's the problem. That's one thing that like I tell that to my friends. They're like, oh, choices. I go, yeah, but what you need, what I learned from Iraq and what I learned from the military is what you need versus what you want are never going to fucking be the same. Because I don't want to go train Jiu Jitsu at 6 o'clock in the fucking morning for an hour. I don't want to go lift weights every day. I don't want to eat, 2,500 calories healthy and get my vegetables and all that shit. I don't want to do that. I fucking don't. Give me a steak and give me fucking chocolate chips and give me ice cream. You know what I'm saying? But the thing is you understand that those things are there as a want, not as a need. So when you look at the military as a whole, the military is going to give you what you need. You need to have food. You need to have a place to lay your head. You need to have skills to survive. You need to be in shape. You need to be able to communicate effectively. And you need to be able to be good at your job. That's it. Everything else is extra. I don't need to give you a fucking TV. I don't need to give you a book. I don't need to give you shit. You need to be able to breathe, shit, and sleep. That's it. And you really appreciate certain things. Like I myself, like I have a hard time spending money on myself unless it's for me to further my education. Like I think we spent money on some books to learn sign language because it's something I've been wanting to pick up for years. And like clothes wise, like I don't care. Like as long as my kid and my wife are good, cool. But the thing is like that's one thing you really understand from the military. And you see it too. You see it in the military. You see people when they get their check, they go out and they buy new shoes. They buy a new console. They buy all the alcohol at the PX. They buy all these things. I'm not saying don't buy yourself things. But what I'm saying is like, you know, when you join the military as a first year enlisting, you know, save all your money. Like, dude, there's one thing that I used to do that I hate admitting this. But when I would have a day off, I would just get a hotel off base. Literally, I would just get a super nice hotel room because I'm not at work. Because even what people don't get is like the military isn't a job, it's a lifestyle. You know what I'm saying? Because even when you're off work, you're still on duty. If you get fucking called, you got to go back in. If a plane crashes and we got to go do search and rescue, guess what? You're fucking getting called. So I would just get a hotel and I would just sit back. I'd put classical music because I love jazz and classical music. And I just sit back and smoke a cigar and just not give a flying fuck. And that was like the most expensive thing that I did, you know? But that's the thing, man, is like, you should be trying to save up your money because you don't know what's going to happen. You have no clue what the fuck is going to happen. And most people, when they join the military, they don't understand that it's probably one of the best things you can do, but you got to figure out what you want. You know, do you want to be a warrant officer? Warrant officers can stay in some branches until they're 60 because they're highly needed. Do you want to be an officer? Because officer pay versus enlisted pay is night and day, right? You know, what do you want out of your enlistment? And I thankfully got everything I wanted out of my enlistment and way more.
Yeah, that's amazing. I see it in a lot of young people spend too much money. They don't have like a decisive goal. They don't know exactly what they want to do. They come in, they see this new paycheck, especially if you come from a poor upbringing. Now you just want to spend it and just make up for lost time. I did that with a whole bunch of tattoos. Maybe spend like 8,000 on tattoos.
Yeah, and that's the thing is like you end up realizing a little later, which for you, like you're still good. But I know guys that are 15 years in that are still spending money like crazy. I'm like, bro, where's your stocks at? Like, what stock options do you have? I don't need that. I got my TSP. Okay, my man, are you going to do 40 years? Are you going to stay in as an E7? Are you going to try to achieve that rank? Because that's the other thing is like people don't, the military, I always say the military is one of the best operated organizations in the world because there's a regulation for everything. The problem is the people in it don't want to comply with that. See, that's the thing. Is that's why when you go to a good unit, you kind of like have a problem, like realizing like, oh, like is this what good leadership looks like? Is this what being treated like an adult looks like? But I tell people all the time, like, listen, you read that contract, you are government property. You ain't a human being. You are government property. And as a leader, you know, I also understand that mission comes first. Like, I'm sorry that and unfortunately, man, I've seen this happen with guys. Hey, man, sorry that your mother died, but mission comes first. We need you in the field. Like, sorry, you can leave when, you know, I'm just like, fuck, dude. Like, you know, like everything, you really got to like be grateful when you have good leaders, and you really have to like be a leader yourself. And that's always the difference between like E3s and E4s, right? Or E4s and E5s. In the Navy, you guys have petty officer, third, second, and first, and then chief, master chief, whatever the fuck, right? So I always tell guys, because I still have a lot of guys that come to me for like mentoring, is, you know, man, treat your guys how you would have want to be treated, but also teach your guys. You know, like I had great fucking leaders, and the thing is, when I became a leader myself, I ended up realizing real quick that it's like, oh, you're gonna have to like really get to know these people, like what motivates people, what doesn't motivate people. It's the same in podcasting. Like, I don't know how many times like I can tell by someone's body reaction, like, oh, you just don't want to talk about this. Like, you're talking about this to get through the motions. But there's times where you talk about like something that it means the world to them. And I'd rather talk about that because I don't want
something
to
they
have
connect with.
Yeah, I don't want to have a conversation about some boring shit that you don't give a fuck about that everybody asks you. You know, like, think about this. How many people have asked Tommy Chong, what was it like to be with Cheech and Chong? What was this? And no one's ever asked him, like, hey, man, so when you went to jail, like, tell me about that shit. Tell me about what happened that you went to jail. Oh, you know what I'm saying? Hey,
You don't want to hear about that.
but that's what people don't want to hear about that. But I want to hear about that. I don't give a fuck. Like, this is the thing that I tell people. Like, the reason that we do okay is because I'm the kind of, like, I've had people, now that we're starting to blow up a little bit, I've had people email me being like, that was such a dumb question. You know, I could Google that and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, cool. I don't give a fuck. Like, thank you for the advice. You know, I just send a thumbs up, you know, because God forbid you tell somebody to go fuck themselves nowadays. But the thing is also is that I'm also interested in the people that I bring in. Like, I have a personal interest. Like, I want to know about them. I want to hear their stories. I want to talk to them. Some people just do it because they want numbers. Like, and that's the thing is, like, you can't, if you chase, it's like, how do I say this? There's a beauty in do what you love, and you won't work a day in your life. But
it's more authentic too.
It is, but here's the thing. If you're going to do that, you better understand that there's going to be times you're going to have to eat shit to accomplish what you want. And there's a lot of things that you're going to need to do to get there. And on top of that, it's not always going to be pretty, you know? Like, I always tell that to people, and it sounds horrible because, you know, if you're in a position where you don't have money and you can't make your rent and stuff like that, bro, go hustle. Go hustle, my man. Go get yours, boo-boo. But at the same time, you better really look at yourself and be like, oh, why am I buying $6 caramel macchiato chocolata tata from this coffee place? You know what I'm saying? Why am I spending $15 a day eating out when I could budget a meal? You know what I'm saying? So, like, really pick your poison, and you can be free. You can absolutely be free. But the thing is, I think people have a misconception of, like, what they think that they want versus what they need, and then how to get there. And the thing is that it's not hard, but only you know. But you just got to be really honest with yourself. And a lot of times with military folks, it's really difficult because everybody's always trying to impress somebody. And then, you know, sometimes this happens, unfortunately, in the military. You have what me and my friends like to call my precious. You know what I'm talking about? You ever see that E7 that got into a DUI or smacked the private's ass, Seaman's ass too hard, and then a file gets charged, and then mysteriously they PCS. Oh, they ended up at another duty station because they want to protect their precious, their retirement. And then, unfortunately, sometimes you have the right thing to do or the me thing to do. And you see that a lot. So, like, you know, you got to understand the game you're playing. That's why I was fortunate enough that I was surrounded by people that, some people were good. Some people, they just got to love them a little more, man, because they just didn't know what they were doing, you know? And other people, they just, you know, they're just living. You know, they just don't give a fuck. Because you see it all the time. No matter what branch, you always have the guy that just wants to chill. Like, listen, this is going to be what I'm going to do for 20 years. Shut the fuck up. Leave me alone. And this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to do my job, and I'm going to do the best that I can. You got the guy that just wants to spend money and is trouble, gets a car at 37% APR, and it's a 2027 car that he doesn't need to have. He can't afford to have. He shouldn't be buying it. Then you have the guys that are just a quiet guy. You have the guy that it's like, how the fuck does that guy get out of everything? But dude, those guys end up being warrant officers, by the way, because they know how to hide. They're like ninjas. And then you have guys that are go-getters, guys that it's like they don't say no to anything because they just want to experience life, you know? People call those people overachievers. That's why you've heard this before. Don't volunteer for shit. No, volunteer for things. Just understand that if you get the short end of the stick, that's going to happen sometimes. Sometimes you're not going to get the short end of the stick. You're going to get to do some gangster stuff. There's a cool documentary about World War II. There was this private that he got put into what's called the Black Sniper Platoon for the British Army. And he says it best. He's like, everybody told me not to volunteer for shit because you might end up digging ditches for poop. I volunteered for something because I was told you don't have to pull fire guard and you don't have to wear a uniform. And he was like, well, fuck, I'm sold. He ended up being one of the snipers that helped us advance through like all these towns during World War II, and had to kill a shit ton of people to do it. But hey, he didn't have to pull fucking guard duty. So guess what? He picked his poison. You see what I'm saying? That's why I said in the beginning, I was like, I should have been fucking infantry, because at least when I come back from garrison, it's either training, going to schools, or doing school. As an MP, you come back and you got to work the road. You got to work in
that's funny. I just had that problem a couple months ago. So we have like an ASF, which is like security guard. So like the security on base.
CPs,
I didn't want to do that.
We call them CPs.
Okay, so it's the equivalent of that. I didn't want to do that. I don't want to hold a weapon. I don't want to stand at 12-hour watch. So I volunteered to do something else. We have honor guard. So I don't know if you ever heard of that. So honor guard, you do like change of commands. You do funeral services.
Fuck that, give me CP. I don't do dog and pony shows, bro. That's what I call those. I call that a dog and pony show. Like, put on all your medals, look pretty. Let me go sit CP.
You sympathize with the family. You do change of commands. Do your rifle tricks.
Yep. It's too much. It's too much. At CP, no one's gonna bother me. And if someone, worse comes to worse, like if someone wants to get stupid, like, I'm the only way you can get on base. What are you gonna do? You gonna run me over, motherfucker? And me, like, I'm always the guy that I'm dumb. Like, I'm just not scared. Because, like, the worst that you're gonna do is put your hands on me. And then from there, it's a different conversation. From there, we're gonna go a different route, But I'd rather do CP. I get what you're saying. It's like,
for me, the pro was shorter hours, but this has been a long conversation, and it was great having you here. I got 2 more questions, then we're going to get into that IDON Active Health Round.
Yeah.
So, where can people find you? Where can they listen to you? I want people to reach out and listen to your next episodes or whatever you have.
The best way to find me is whenever you're with a big booty woman, you rub her butt cheeks together, and then you whisper Rico Podcast, and then we just magically appear, and we just hang out, and that's how we conduct most interviews. No, I'm kidding. The best way to find us is on iHeart.
Malanda start.
Wouldn't that be crazy? It's like, if you were a genie, what kind of genie would you be? Honey, I gotta summon Rico. I gotta summon him. I need advice. You can go to iHeartRadio. That's probably the best spot, and that's where we would like to get licensed, because I throw that out into the universe. I don't give a fuck. I like to be licensed. I like to be licensed by iHeart. I like iHeart. I know some people that work there that are up there, and they're very nice, and they're very cool people. You can find us on Facebook on Rico Podcast. Pretty much that's it right there, Rico Podcast, and you'll find us. You can find me through Richard Aviles, and you'll see my comedy logo. It's like an anime looking sticker with a weird looking anime picture of me. And you can find me online on you can message me online on my website, languageninjasolutions.com, or richard@languageninjasolutions.com. I normally am available for a lot of stuff. Like, I do talks, like motivational speaking and stuff like that for colleges. Like, sometimes the language department here, has been a while because of COVID and stuff like that, but the language department at the university here sometimes will have me talk to their new students. Sometimes I'll talk to the police for the Marine Corps, because I swear I should have joined the Marine Corps. Like, I think if I would have joined the Marine Corps, I would have stayed. It really is. My mentality is very much like, my best friend is a Marine. One of my best friends is a Marine, my other best friend, he's 40 and he's retired. And he was like, yeah, you would have been okay back in the day, and that's the best way to find me, man. That's literally the best way to find me.
All right. So all the links will be below if anybody want to reach out to him. And my final question is, what 3 tips would you give to somebody just now trying to enter the branch of the military, any branch? What 3 tips would you give them to guide their career?
It's funny because I did this with a friend of mine, Christoph Perry. His kid went into the Marine Corps. First of all, no one gives a fuck. It's the first thing I'm gonna tell you. And I'm gonna look at you square in the face. Like, no one gives a flying fuck. You're not special. The military did not come to reach out to you and say, "Oh my God, so and so, Khalil, come save us with your great skill." No, you enlisted. You decided to join. Understand that you better be okay with the worst case scenario. Like, you better be okay with the worst case scenario. If you're going to join infantry, you better be okay with going to war, and you better have that conversation with yourself. Like, I might have to kill somebody, or I might have to protect somebody. You better have that conversation with yourself, because my grandfather told me that conversation, and he never deployed. And he told me, he's like, you better have a conversation with yourself. Like, if I go and I have to go do this, am I going to be okay with that? And if the answer is no, don't do it. Just don't fucking do it. Like, it's not for everybody. You should never feel ashamed. I hate when I hear people say, "Oh, I could have enlisted," but no, there's a million other things that you can do to serve the world. Go work at a kitchen, at kitchen pantries. That's what we call them here. It's like the kitchens is what we call them. Go learn another language, go see the world. There's a million ways that you can see the world for free. If you're going to join the military, volunteer for everything. If you want to experience things, but understand that if you do that, sometimes you're going to draw the short end of the stick. And the other thing is like, don't shit where you eat. I don't care what anybody says. You could tell me that the E5 has the nicest ass in the world and she's so nice to you. Don't shit where you eat. It doesn't end well. It rarely ends well. Rarely. And the other thing is that a lot of times is when we do that, it's because we want someone that can understand like what we're going through. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's why I tell guys all the time, like, dude, just message me. Like, I got guys that they'll call me sometimes at the end of the day, which is coincidentally, I have like 4 missed calls already, from guy, one of my homies. He just got off work and he's like, dude, this fucking soldier, like, he already texted me. So like, have a good support network. That's the biggest thing that I can tell someone. Having a good support network in while you're in helps dramatically. Some people don't get along with their families, so your family is not an option. Some people have friends that they give sound advice and they're there. They're like family, and you gotta have a good network, man. You have to have a good support network, because if not, you're fucked. And if you don't have one, my man, I'm here for you. I'll talk to you. But just know, if you come to me with some bullshit that you did yourself, I'm going to tell you, I'm a firm believer of self-accountability. And there's very rare instances that I'll go, no, fuck you. Like, that's wrong. They did you dirty. Some instances I'm going to be like, well, what did you do? You know what I'm saying? Because that's the problem I saw in the military a lot, is people would do mistake after mistake after mistake after mistake after mistake. And then they wouldn't do something for a little bit. I'm like, dude, just lay low. Just lay low. Like, you got too much heat on you. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got to chill. So having a good support system keeps you out of trouble, And the other thing, I feel like I'm giving like a weekly safety briefing. The other thing is, I used to tell this to all my soldiers: be smart about the dumb shit you do. Don't break more than one law at the time if you have to. Don't do shit in plain sight. Don't add to the population. Don't subtract to the population. Don't end up on the news, the paper, the Navy what the fuck moments, the Army what the fuck moments, the Marine Corps what the fuck moments. And you're going to do just fine, man. And just do your fucking job. Understand that when you join, your family, your life, your aspirations, the military doesn't give a fuck. Like, it is mission first. And if you're okay with all that, then by all means join. And I guarantee you're going to have a great time. Like, I guarantee you're going to have a great time. Experiences may vary.
Thank you for that. I'm sure all my military listeners, I bet they wish they would have had you when they could join, or if they're about to join. I know they're really excited about what they just heard, so now they're probably writing their tips down.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
Hopefully, man, because
I wish I had this conversation when I joined.
dude, I had this conversation with my grandfather because I joined during a time of like active war. And that was one of the things my grandfather said when we were training, because I'd run in the beach because I came straight from the island. So for me to get my conditioning, since I couldn't run in the cold, I had to run in the sand. And the heaviness of running in the sand felt like I could run in the cold. Obviously, the first few weeks, like it was difficult breathing, but because I would always run, like I was able to like adapt pretty quickly. And that was some of the conversations, man. Like, you know, don't stop when you're tired. Stop when you're done. You know, it's the same in jiu-jitsu. We stop when we're done, you know? And that's the thing is like, you have to understand, like if you're going to start something, finish it. And dude, it's just 5 years, man. It's just 20 years. That's what I tell people all the time. If you don't love it, then just get out, but just understand what you're trading. That's why I tell people, like, if you're going to get out and you're going to think that, I hear this all the time, man. Well, I got a plan and my cousin, this and that. Yeah, that's cool. What are you going to do if that doesn't go? Okay, well, I'm going to use my GI Bill. Okay, cool. Well, your GI Bill gives you $1,000 a month if you go to school. Can you live off $1,000 a month? Yes, you can. Yes, you can. I did it. I fucking did it. I got an apartment. You know, I went to school online. I took as many credit hours as I could. I ate ramen and fucking noodles for a little bit, you know, and then, you know, thank God after a few months, we got shit squared away. But you got to be able to eat a little bit of shit. Life doesn't end. And when you get out, for the people that are getting out, no one gives the fuck, bro. No one gives a flying fuck. Like, no one. Trust me. I know people that have done way more gangster things than me. And I wear this hat because it's memorabilia. And I like this fucking hat, how it fits my head. Not a lot of hats that I wear. You know what I mean? So just, I hate to sound like that, but it's like, no one cares, man. Just do it for you.
Honest.
Yeah, because no one's. I'm not gonna sit here. I'm not the type of friend. I always tell people when they say they want to be my homie, like, you don't want to be my homie because I'm gonna call you out on your bullshit. And I expect you to do the same thing. You know what I'm saying? And the thing is like when you're being a bitch, you're being a bitch. And I'm gonna tell you for being a bitch. I'm also gonna tell you, like, my man, you need to slow down. Like, maybe go get you a drink. You know, get you hanging out with somebody. But a lot of the times, people don't like that. People don't want that in their ear. And I'm that guy. I'm that friend. You know, I'm not that guy. I'm sorry. I'm that friend. So hopefully that helps your listeners, man.
Yeah, I'm going to add to that too. One thing I like to tell my sailors, like if they're thinking about doing 20, but they don't really enjoy it and they have other aspirations, I tell them to start it. Start a side hustle. Start a business. Think of the military as a investor. And just try to reframe your thoughts so you're not as negative about it, what you're doing.
The problem is when people say things like that, it's because they were not told what it would be like. The recruiters, a lot of times, and this is an issue I run into a lot, is the recruiters a lot of times are getting better now. They're getting way better now. Like recruiters nowadays, like the ones that I hang out with, like, bro, they don't give a fuck. They're like, oh, you want to join the army? You want to, what are you bringing? You got a GED? Fuck out of here, bro. I got 20 people with a master's degree. I don't need you, you know, unless you want to join this. You know what I'm saying? So like, it's all there, you know. The wisdom is there. The opportunities are there. Bro, I used to volunteer at the USO. And I would help put events together. And I put on a fucking cow outfit. And I have a picture somewhere of me with a 2-star general and me in a cow outfit. And it's signed by him. And I got a military outstanding volunteer service medal for that. That, and I also did search and rescue in Joplin when the tornado hit. So, you know, it's not only just a cow outfit, you know. But the thing is like, you know, it's like there's things you can do to progress your career. There's things you can do. You know, we have now the BOSS program. I don't know if the Navy has it. It's called Better Opportunity for Single Soldiers.
No.
Okay. Okay. The Army has that, and it's a great program. Like, you get to meet celebrities, you get to like do some really cool stuff. But just know, mission first. Mission first.
Yeah, my
Always mission
audience, if I
first.
take anyway, if you're military and you're watching this, just keep that in mind. Mission first,
Mm-hmm.
and you won't be upset. But let's get into the item active health round. So
Yeah.
my first question is, how do you lower your cortisol levels? Like, even when you were in the military or now with
That's a good question, because I don't get a lot of people asking me this. In the military, uh, I would drink. Like, drinking would normally calm me down, and it wasn't really heavy drinking. Like, I consider heavy drinking as like I'm drinking a bottle. On the weekends, of course, if I didn't have duty, if I didn't have anything, 100% we're gonna party, you know. And I'm the type of person, I party at my house, so I party at my BEQ. One of the things that helped me a lot was video games. Video games and smoking cigars. I know it sounds counterproductive, but I still smoke cigars to this day. I've been smoking cigars since I was like 20. Started in Iraq. Started when I was in Iraq. I started smoking cigars, and that I actually blame. This is funny. No one's ever asked that. I actually blame that to a video game called Metal Gear Solid by Konami. Well, it used to be Konami. It was Hideo Kojima.
okay.
Yeah, I think you know which one it is. A Solid Snake and all that. Like, I used to play that game, and I was like, I want to fucking join the military and do that shit. So I have like a ton of pictures of me in Iraq after missions, just with a cigar in my hand, just me cleaning my weapon, fucking me just smoking a stogie, and everybody's like, it fucking stinks. I'm like, this country stinks, okay? The other thing that helped me is I don't try to consume shit that just isn't going to add to my well-being, right? For example, soda, American soda specifically. It just doesn't do anything. It doesn't give you any micronutrients. It doesn't have macronutrients. You know, it's garbage. It just takes from you. So that was one thing that helped me. I stayed in shape consistently. I worked out all the time because I knew that if I worked out, I had a way to do things. And the other thing I did too was I did Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. When I was like on my third year, I started Brazilian Jiu Jitsu.
You say your third year?
Yeah, when I was on my third year of enlistment in the military, I had started training jiu-jitsu with someone named Joe Pellegrino. And I still train to this day. Like, I'm a purple belt now, so I still train. That's where you get these lovely little messed up ears right there, unfortunately. And you have to buy, yeah, that one looks worse. You have to buy big comfy headsets because you didn't protect your ears and no one told you. The other thing I do is I meditate a lot. I do breathing exercises every morning, and I only do cold showers. That's one thing that's big for me. I only do cold showers. So that's how I keep my cortisol levels low when I was in and when I'm out now.
All right, you answered most of my questions already, but I'm still gonna ask them. My second question. So I'm big on professional development, and I feel like it's always start in the morning. So what is like your morning routine?
I wake up every day from either 5 to 7. I try to wake up within that time. Number one, I spend time with my wife. I try to spend at least 2 hours a day with my wife. Like, and when I mean is just me and her.
Pretty much your attention geared straight to her and nothing else.
Yeah, like, you know, we'll snuggle and shit like that. Like, we'll talk about shit. We'll talk about, things that we're doing. We're talking about food. We're talking about just, everything. And me and my wife hang out a lot. On the weekends, me and my wife pretty much hang out a shit ton. And then I always start my day with a bottle of water, about 16 ounces. I take all the supplements that I'm going to need in the morning. And if I'm going to jiu-jitsu in the mornings, which I normally try to start my day like that, I end up being able to how do I put this? If my morning is going to be too hectic, I try to just at least sit down and meditate. If I can't hang out with the wife, I can't do anything, or I didn't make time, I try to at least like sit down and meditate for like 30 minutes. It used to be like 2 minutes. Now I can sit down under cold water in the ice tub.
Is that how you meditate?
Yeah.
In cold water?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. In the winter, I'll sit outside. I'll sit outside with a towel or something that doesn't get stuck, and I'll just be in my briefs and I'll sit outside and breathe for a little bit. It's good. It's good. Cold water is good for you. No matter what anybody says, cold water is pretty healthy for you. You can avoid a lot of issues. It helps with inflammation. Overdoing it too much also can cause, and I forget the name of it, like your muscles don't grow as well, I've been told. So like, let's say you're trying to get big arms, you know what I'm saying? Like, but I like cold weather. I like cold water because, I train every day, and it's like as you get older, your joints take a lot of pain. And if you don't do that when you're younger, man, you're going to feel it when you're older. Like you're going to feel those joints, and you're going to feel all that when you're younger. But that's pretty much a good morning for me, is water, hang out with the wife, or meditate.
All right. My third question. What type of workouts do you do to give you energy throughout the day? I know you say you do Jiu Jitsu, but I just want to hear from your view what type of workouts you do that gives you energy.
I don't really do workouts for energy. Like I don't really have like that's not a question I can really answer, because I work out for my mental health.
Okay.
Like I don't work out, like if I don't work out, like something's misfiring, And when I say misfire, what I mean by that is that I feel off. So I work out for my mental health. Feeling great for me.
When you say mental health, are you talking about as a stress reliever or okay?
Yeah. Dude, you go in for an hour, roll with some guys, get choked, try to choke people. It's good. It's good for you. It's very good for you to realize that a 120-pound woman can choke the fuck out of you if she really wanted to. She could break your arm if she really wanted to. Like that's a thing that's happened to me. You know what I'm saying? It's really good for you to realize that, yeah, you can lift weights, because you should lift weights. You should lift some sort of weights, because one of the benefits, and I remember in the military, they used to teach this class. They used to teach this when I was in the Army, is like a full class on like why strength training and anaerobical training is good, and you should have both, is because age is a bitch. And like the thing is that I think I heard Rogan or Schaub say this recently, like as you get older, you always want to be able to do like small things. So you should be able to like lift things and like move things and like mobility and stretching and all this other shit. You should be able to do those things. So to me, I don't really work out for energy. I actually just feel very tired.
So pretty much just to build your skeletal body muscle. So as you age,
yeah. And we used to have a class in the Army. It was like 8 fucking hours long. They taught it all the time about health and all that stuff, and you could go talk to somebody. I don't know if that's still available, but dude, they taught a lot of good stuff that I was like, oh shit, like I didn't know that. Like, hey, as you get older, you might need to eat less meat. You're going to develop allergies. So like you see guys that get in their mid-30s and they can't lose weight. Hey man, go get your blood work done. Go see how your thyroid is. Go check your testosterone. Like a lot of military veterans, what's happening now on the outside when they get out is they have low T.
Yeah,
and they have low T.
They don't offer that in the military when people request it. So actually, I was hard for some people.
It's 100% hard. But the thing is that if you have low T and you can justify it, fuck them. Because at the end of the day, like low testosterone, literally, and there's a bunch of articles in the VA that it's like, oh, these veterans that have post-traumatic stress disorder also have really low testosterone. Like I'm talking about below 200. Oh, wow. Like levels below 200. That's some 56-year-old shit right there. Like, and you should not. So, you got to watch what you eat. You got to take your vitamins. take your stuff. But the military, dude, in the Army, at least, I know the Marine Corps, like they have like a coaching program that you can go to that helps with all that stuff and how to read, the blood work and all that stuff. The Marine Corps does a really good job of that. That's why you see guys in the Marine Corps, they're fucking jacked all the time, because all they do is train how to kill people. You know what I'm saying? So like they have to learn how to be healthy, how to eat right. What's your caloric deficit? What's this? What's that? The Army used to do that. Not so much now, I guess. But that's the best thing for me right there. Is like it's very different. Sorry, I couldn't answer that in a better way.
I like it. I work out because it's a stress reliever, and also because I want to build my muscle mass as I age. So I thought that was a perfect answer. But my last question is, now this is about nutrition. So how do you go about choosing food that's going to help your health? I know you kind of already answered that.
So that depends on a lot of things. Number one, it depends on your budget. It's number one. Depends on your budget, depends on your goals, but the number one thing is going to be your budget. So like, what's your budget for food a month, and then you go from there. So for like me, I only eat specific things. Number one, because it's cheaper, because things are going up now. Number two, because it's easy to cook. And number three, because it's going to have the best quality the best quality food that I can give to my stomach, because I have a ton of allergies. So like for me is I eat a lot of chicken. I like to eat venison a lot, because you can get venison very easy around here, like very easy. And I like ground venison. So I make nachos with it, If I eat out, one rule I have, and I always told soldiers, was I only eat out if it's something that I can't cook. Like if it's something that I can cook, 100% I'm not going to eat out.
That's a good rule of thumb.
It is, because think about it. Can you make eggs? Can you make good scrambled eggs? Oh, I can't make good scrambled eggs. Good. Go on fucking YouTube, Google Gordon Ramsay scrambled eggs secret. And I promise you, you will never fucking talk about I'm telling you right now, Kayla, after this, go to YouTube, look up how Gordon Ramsay does scrambled eggs. It will change your fucking life. Like, I promise you. Learn how to fucking cook things. Learn how to cook things. Promise you. As a man, like, the fact that I can cook, that's a panty dropper right there, my man. Like, that's 100% a panty dropper right there, bro. Like, I've had chicks that come over and I make Puerto Rican food, and they're like, oh, I'm allergic to this. None of that is in there. But it tastes so good. Yeah, I know. I know. Trust me, I know.
I know.
I eat rice. I eat a lot of rice. A lot of rice. I love rice. I love white rice. I don't like brown rice. Black rice I like, or purple rice. But the problem is that I don't know how to cook it very well, and I've tried a few times. So I've been trying to find someone that will like really, hey, do it like this. Like white rice I cook. It takes me 40 minutes to make white rice, even if it's instant white rice, because I have like certain tricks that I've learned from my grandparents and my mom. But those are the type of foods that I eat. Vegetables, I try to eat my greens, and then I take a supplement that helps with that. But I get blood work done and all that stuff all the time. So that's just my 2 cents on that right there. And the supplements that I take, actually, if you don't mind, I'm sponsored by a company called Thorne. So you'll see right here, Thorne right there.
Okay.
They have like some of the top quality supplements that the UFC utilizes and the Army competitive team sports utilize. So it's like super clean, and like I know exactly what I need. And I know that it's probably the most affordable ones out there that are clean, like no goose feather clippings, no weird shit. That's a thing, my man. That's a thing. That's an additive. That's an additive right there. And that's pretty much how I stay. Like, and I'm overweight right now, but it's like little by little. Rome wasn't built in a day. Yeah, progress.
But yeah, I want to say thank you for coming on the Iron Active Health Show, Rico. It was a pleasure talking to you. I love all the insights you gave me. I'm definitely going to have to look back on this episode myself to catch up on my notes. And I'm sure my audience got a lot of value from it, whether they're in the military, not in the military, or just wanted to listen for a laugh.